Hi everyone, I'm Marguerite with Wreaths by Marguerite. Welcome to the channel where we turn ribbon mesh and little creativity into beautiful wreaths you'll love. Today's tutorial is about Frankie in a storm door fashion. So stay here and let's just jump right into this project. Let's do this. Alright, well this isn't a tutorial. I'm still going to walk through what all I have here. If you'd like detailed instruction on how to do this style of wreath, you can look at some of my other tutorials. It's super detailed in the tutorials from the beginning of 2024 when I first started. And if you want to see some of my most recent ones, there is a scarecrow one that I just did a few weeks ago, depending on when you're watching this. It is the 2025 wreath kit for fall. That one's important to watch because I used directional ribbon, which is what I have on this particular style wreath. When I say directional ribbon, for example, Frankenstein is going the same direction on all the ribbon. He isn't upside down here and right side up here, upside down and right side here. That's directional. Things with words where they're all going the same direction and not flip-flopped. Same thing with this one with the cat, all these cute little Halloween figures as well. They all go the same direction. Now, if they were flip-flopped, it wouldn't matter how I placed them in the wreath, but since they're directional, it makes a difference. So I go into detail in the 2025 Scarecrow wreath kit that I did in August of 2025. Okay, so you can follow along there. I've already pre-cut all of my materials. So I got half of the pile with the ribbons going one direction and half of the pile with the other direction. Okay, I got the sign. It's got the attachments on the back. It's ready to go, and I'm going to move it out of the way for now because we won't use that until towards the end. I like to keep the packaging over it so it doesn't get ruined. I have 12 pieces of 10-inch mesh that are cut at 20 inches in length. This is kind of directional as well because it's not purple on both edges, so I'll have to remember that as I'm putting it into the wreath. So what I'll do is, since I have an even number of ties, I can do every other with the green outside and every other with the purple outside. Otherwise, if it's an odd number of ties, you're going to have to do it all the same. Because otherwise you'll end up with two next to each other, and I don't know if you're like me who can't stand not having the pattern consistent, okay? So these are all cut at 20 inches. They're all 10-inch mesh, okay? So there's as many of those as there is ribbon bundles and pipe cleaners on the frame. This is a 14¼ inch frame with 12 pipe cleaners on it, 6 on the outside rings 1 and 2. Set at the crossbars. There's 6 crossbars, and then the inner set of 6 pipe cleaners are on rings 3 and 4, staggered in between each crossbar to help balance and center the mesh so that it lays flat as possible. So let's go ahead and get started. I have some tools here. I use wire cutters, a chip clip, a wooden dowel or pencil, some needle nose if I need them, and what am I missing? My needle. This is how I pull the sign pipe cleaners through the frame, and you'll see that when we get there. Plus, of course, scissors. Alright, so this is a patterned mesh, so that makes it easier for me to know where my center is when I'm ruffling it. I'm going to fold it in half, and that tells me where my center is, but I don't really need that. It also helps as a weight because you have curling of the mesh. You always want the curl side down when you're working on this particular style wreath. So I made sure that all my pipe cleaners on the outer ring were set horizontally because that's how they need to be to put the mesh in vertically. So I'm just going to start ruffling. I'm not going to go do every step in super detail like I said that I do in my tutorials for the kits. So I'm just ruffling it up, making sure I'm centered, holding it loosely. So I started with green outside. So the next 2 will have green outside because I put them in every other tie first. Then I go back and do the other 3. So tight, low 3 times, or 2, whichever you want to do. Then I'm taking that outside cut edge over the inside cut edge, the outside cut over the inside cut edge, and making sure that everything's even on each side of the center and that the edges meet and it's nice and round. And we never grab the mesh at the very outer edge because that'll change the design. Now I'm skipping that one. I go to the next one, keeping in mind we want the green to be on the outside. fold it in half. I use the table to uncurl my mesh. I know that yellow stripe is my center since we have a pattern mesh. It makes it a lot easier to stay centered on the mesh when I'm ruffling it. So it goes in more evenly all the way around. Okay, get that in 2 fingers. Adjust my mesh. And then bring it over to the frame. I like to turn it slightly sideways to me one way or the other when I'm putting the mesh in. But always remember the mesh goes in vertical to horizontal pipe cleaners. Okay, so get that in there tight. Twist it a couple times. And I'm doing it low and not twisting it up towards the ceiling because the goal is to keep this ribbon, keep this wreath under 4 inches deep because it is considered a storm door style and something to use in that capacity. So I'm going to make, this is definitely a looser weave of mesh, so I got to be a little more gentle with it when moving it because it will most definitely change the design. So I try to reach in towards the center, closest to the pipe cleaners when I'm making adjustments. We want to make sure this outside edge is nice and round because on this layer, that's what you're going to see. Anything in the center here is not going to be seen because it's going to be covered in more ribbon and more mesh and a sign. So it will be viewed at the back side of the wreath. So that yellow stripe, remember, that's my center. And I am going to do on this first layer, I'm going to continue to ruffle them, getting them ready. I do 2 different techniques if you're watching me closely. I like to mix things up a little bit so I'm not bored. Not that wreath making is boring. Just mixing it up. Just because. It's less monotonous that way, I find. You know, if you're not doing I mean, yes, if you're brand new, you want to do everything the same every time till you're sure you got it down pat. But I've made about 500 wreaths. No, not 500, please. 2,000 wreaths so far, so somewhere in the neighborhood. Now I'm remembering that I want to use the purple on the outside edge. So I turned it. We're going to go back and put these in between those 3. The orange stripe is still the center stripe, so that makes it easy to remember. There's a lot of factors in this particular wreath. That's also why I didn't want to make it a kit this year. Let me know if you think it would be one you would like to see for next year. I'm always open to ideas. I've already got my ribbon for next year. So now I just need, usually I go from the sign to the ribbon and then the decision process, but I got a good deal on ribbon, so I have a good idea of what I'm going to do. So the ribbon I purchased will be perfect for anything I do. A standard roll of ribbon is 10 yards, but I like to buy the 50-yard rolls for when I'm creating a kit, and that's what I was able to do. Also, tell me if you're a traditionalist. Are you a orange and black Halloween only, or do you like the multiple colors? I like this combination of colors the most. But the pink that's been popular the last couple of years has also been, you know, I kind of like it a lot. Also, let me know if you think that should be a combination I put in kits for next year as well. Should I do a pink kit? Pink and lavender in Halloween has become all the rage. It's cute. It's really cute. I was just in Dollar General the other day and saw the cutest pink Halloween ghosty stuff. It might have been a bowl or a cookie jar. If I didn't have to change everything I own, I'd probably change my theme, but, you know, let's not go crazy here, right? Okay. Did I do that right? Purple, purple. I got talking. If I get talking, it can be dangerous. So I use the curl side down. I use the table to uncurl it. Marked it in the center by folding it in half. And then I'm just ruffling it on the other end using that orange stripe. to guide me, and the chip clip. The chip clip both holds the mesh flat, as well as gives me a visual for staying on center. Okay. Put that in there. So this is one of the beginning pieces for the Halloween season this year. Frankenstein is very popular, like I said, pink and lavender as well. Cats and bats. And always the traditional orange and black. It's always a good, safe bet. Alright, let me see. Any of these look like I hold them out too far? Maybe this one. If you're not sure, I always use the cutting mat on the table to make sure I'm 5 inches from the center on the outside edge. That looks good. Okay, so now I get to put some ribbon in. So 3 from each pile. 3 from each combination. If you ever get a fray piece of mesh, take it off carefully. It won't hurt things. You're always going to have fraying with mesh. It's impossible to avoid. Now let me get these pipe cleaners all positioned. There we go. That one didn't seem as round to me as I thought it should be, so I fixed it. So with the mesh, the pipe cleaners are horizontal. With the ribbon, the pipe cleaners are vertical. Alright, let's do this one first. Okay. And I always try to put these in the bottom layer in an upside down V formation. That helps to keep your ribbon facing the outside edge. Okay, cut the outside extra off because we don't need it on the bottom layer. And then position your ribbon how you want it to look. So you're getting a little bit of general. This is a glittered ribbon. I used all 2.5 inch ribbons, 2.5 inch this way, because you get more coverage. Yes, it covers more of this pretty mesh, but enough of it will show. That's why if I use a lot of ribbon, I tend to use more solid colored mesh, but I really wanted to use this mesh. I've been really looking forward to making this wreath, so. And then I like to push down on it a little bit. That helps keep it flatter too. So we're going to do that again over here. Make sure that they're still the same direction. For the other 3 that go in between these 3 will face the opposite. Frankie will be facing the opposite. Same thing with the character ribbon. What I did was where Frankie was facing that way, they were facing the other, and then vice versa for the other 3. Let's see. Lift and separate. I really wanted to put the other one on top, but I really wanted to use the orange. I was very indecisive at first, and then I said just go with Frankie on top. The color of the orange sitting on the top will frame the green sign a lot better, I think. We never grab our ribbon from the edges, and it'll cause fraying. Yep. I was second guessing myself. Check twice, do the work once. I'm just twisting this up after I do the first few tight and low twists so that I can create that stub. I need something to lock into the product. There. And having all the product prepped ahead of time makes it easy and quick for me to get this stuff out. I like to make a bunch of, I make kits to sell, but then I make kits of one, meaning there's only one kit, of tons of others. That's how I get through the seasons quicker without having to burn the midnight oil like I used to. If during the slow season, I make prep a bunch of kits, having everything ready, it makes it much faster for me to whip out the finished product quicker. I remember the first year I started doing shows. If you watched me for a while, you've heard this story. I had booked myself so full of shows that first year that they were on top of each other. And I was literally having to come home from one show, and for the next 4 days, creating 10 and 12 wreaths a day. That's a lot. It's not so much if you have the wreath supplies set up for the particular design. And I created enough in advance and still have a little bit of stock year over year that I have never had to go through that again. I'm a little panicked this year. That's why I'm preparing early on a lot of things, because I have been chosen for a big show in Cheyenne, Wyoming, which is just about 100 miles from here. Everything's a drive in southwest Nebraska. But you're moving the whole time, so it's not so bad. So yeah, they accepted me. It's a big show with over 200 vendors. When I went to check it out last year, on Saturday, it was packed. Like, packed with people down each aisle. So I was lucky enough to get a corner spot, so I'll be able to put stuff on the outside of my wall so people can see stuff and stop in while they're herded through the aisles. But I believe there's an early bird schedule too, so sometimes it pays to get there early in an event like that for customers. Get first dibs that way too. But I'll make sure I have lots of back stock, so, and my husband with me to continue to replenish throughout the event, because it's 2 days. I have high expectations and I shouldn't, but you know, I'm excited. Okay, get that off, I forgot to. That's what happens when I'm talking a lot. I'm talking a lot when I'm excited. Alright, I'm already loving this. If I sell it before the big shows in the end of September and October, I think I may have to buy some more signs. If I can still get them. But keep in mind, as a maker, we got to get our product early. I'm basically done buying Christmas stuff for wreath making, because it's starting to run out. Yes, you can get stuff at Hobby Lobby and Michael's and other places, but I do most of my shopping online with other small business owners or fairly small business owners across the country. We always like to support each other where we can. Just like I support my friend locally who makes signs. When I need a custom design, she's all over it. And then I can get the word out for her that she does signs. Alright, so there is the first layer. Isn't that bright and festive? In the video clip, it looks a lot more purple than I thought it would be. Which I have no problem with, because hello, purple. I love purple. Alright, now it's time to pull the pipe cleaners from the back up front for the second layer, and that goes in between each piece of mesh. This is a more loosely woven mesh, and I've found that those types of meshes, as pretty as they are, they tend to fray a little bit more, and this is definitely living up to that reputation. That doesn't mean it's bad mesh, it just means it is what it is. You just have to keep that in mind when creating. Alright. I'm trying to lay these pipe cleaners horizontal to me as I'm pulling them through, so they're ready for me when it's time to put the mesh in. multitasking here a little bit. I could just pull them all up and then go back around and lay them flat, but I'm doing them both at once. When you're new at it, I recommend taking your time and doing the steps like you're taught. Alright, back to the mesh. Keeping in mind, once again, we got to make sure that we do 3 with the green on the outside edge and 3 with the purple on the outside edge. Yellow stripe is the center. You can see how quickly I can move after I've been doing it for a while. It's all muscle memory at this point. I will concede that at the beginning of each project, I have to get into the groove again, and my first couple of ruffles are not always perfection, but it's always an easy fix. Now, a lot of the wreaths that I make, I do, after I do this mesh, I would put the sign in, if it's rectangular or perfectly round. But in the case of this wreath, Frankie has a specific shape to his face, and we want everyone to see all of his features. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the ribbon before I put in the mesh. And I'm going to do the inverted V formation with the ribbon on the top layer, just like I did on the bottom. Because of that, some more of the ribbon is facing the outside of the wreath. Normally, I don't do the inverted V like I did here. On the top layer, I starburst it. But since it's going behind Frankie, I want to expose as much of the ribbon as possible. It will frame him nicely. Tighten low 3 times with that. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. Outside cut edge over inside cut edge. The reason I do outside cut edge over inside cut edge is because every cut piece of the mesh is now protected and not likely to catch on anything since it frays. So this is the final one with the green on the outside. I'm using the table to uncurl my mesh. I love how bright it is in the picture. I get the video going over here too, so I can see it. I love Halloween. I have to admit, the last 3 years I haven't put any Halloween up at my home inside, so I missed it so much. I decided I'm going to do fall outside and Halloween inside. And then once Halloween's over, if I have any energy after my shows, I'll put some of the fall up inside and then go straight to Christmas right before Thanksgiving. I'm going to have to adjust that when I get in there. It doesn't want to lay right. Let's see what happens here. Let's see how it looks when I get it in there. Tight and low. But I love this color combination. This is by far my favorite. Anything with purple makes me happy. But yeah, the pastels have just kind of taken over all the holidays. It's not just spring anymore. You see it in Christmas with the Candyland themes and the macaroons and stuff like that. Now, a couple years ago, it seeped into Halloween. Even I would say fall to a degree. And then in the fall, also plum is a very popular color now, as well as the navy and the smoky blues. So lots of variety out there. I remembered the purple is going to go to the outside now, so I unrolled it correctly to do that for these last 3. You shouldn't reach across the cable like that to ruffle. Bring it towards yourself so you're not straining your arms and back so much. You'll thank me later, maybe. Okay. I know I thank me later. keep this one. No, I'm doing fall outside. Hush. Just kidding. This one will be for sale. I have some really glittery wreaths that I've had for several years for Halloween that are this color palette. So they will go up in the house. Okay. Next. Oh, there's this one. I need to use this one up. Use this one. This was, sometimes I do a trial run, sometimes I don't. When I'm not 100% sure something looks right together, I'll make up a sample. And that's what I did in this one. So let's get that one in there. Maybe I'll do a class with this one next year. Always thinking, as a maker, you're always thinking about the next project and the next year. At least that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, does anybody else dress their dog up for Christmas? I mean, no, not Christmas. I do for Christmas, but for Halloween, thinking about it this year. I think that'll be a hoot. She always gives me this look. I have a chocolate lab. She always gives me this look like, really? Are you really going to do this to me? Come on, Mom. And I just look at her and go, love you. That's a clear thread there. Okay, now we'll use this last one. Why did I do it that way? I made things harder on me than I have to. Ruffle. So this is the last piece of mesh. This doesn't apply to this project in any way, shape, or form, but it just crossed my mind. If you buy some really thin mesh, really thin, and I have back in the day when I first started, I didn't know better, and now that I know better, I do better. But back in the day, and I still even have a little bit, the super thin mesh, my recommendation would be to do 2 layers on the bottom of the mesh to thicken it up, but not on the top. So that means you would put on the bottom layer 1 piece, put it in the pipe cleaner, twist it once or twice, put the outside cut edge over the inside cut edge, and then add another piece of mesh immediately before you put the ribbon on. It gives it a thicker look, and it still keeps it under the 4 inches deep, and it also makes it less see-through, because ultimately your goal is to cover the frame. Alright, so there we go. So now we're going to go ahead and do the ribbon, because we remember Frankie needs to go on top so we can see his little nodules too. Alright, don't mess with the ribbon on the bottom, we do that at the end. These first 3 in first, and every other, and I forgot to invert it because I don't normally do that on this layer. Okay. And I'm going to do it in 3, and then I'm going to twist it just like I did on the bottom. But this time I'm going to twist it more because I don't know if the sign is going to cover the pipe cleaner perfectly. So we're just going to make the stub style. No curly cues on this one. So I'm going to go with the characters up, glitter in the middle, and Frankie down here. But on the top layer it's the same on both sides. I don't do opposing, mirrored. God, I love this ribbon. Years ago, Joann's, rest in peace, had a similar ribbon to this. I still have a little bitty piece left that I'm holding on for old time's sakes, I think. And I really loved it, and they never made it again. See that? So when they came out with this, I was like, 4 rolls, please. I don't want to have to run out anytime soon. So cute. There's so much cute stuff that comes out every year, but there are certain ones I love to have always. Cut that one off. I'm trying to throw things in the trash as I go so I don't leave a mess. The less that can get caught up in the back of the wreath, the better. But yeah, as far as a costume for my dog, I'm trying to think. What would be a good costume for her? She's a chocolate lab. I suppose dressing her up like she's a hunter would be appropriate. And I have a hunting vest for her. So maybe that would be the easiest. I don't know. I can't decide. Give me ideas. What would be a good costume for a chocolate lab for Halloween? Even if you're seeing this after the fact, let me know for next year. Just keep twisting it. I wouldn't twist it this much if it was going to be the curly cues, like I said, which if you want to know what I'm talking about, definitely reach out and watch some of the other videos. You notice I'm being pretty rough with it as I'm manipulating it. It won't hurt it usually, and I try to use a better quality ribbon. I prefer the glitters, and the glitters I don't like where they're bonded together, the stripes and stuff. This is all in one, because if it's bonded in strips, if you pull on it, it's going to separate the ribbon, especially from the edges. But these are all solid linen ribbons otherwise. And now we're going to go back and do the 3 in between. And the Frankenstein is going to face the opposite direction. Trying to keep that V as intact as possible. These are pretty thick too. I love that. Especially the glitter. They tend to be a more thicker composition. I tend to do the more whimsical. No, you know what I did? Okay. If you missed it, I wanted to put the Frankie and the characters in opposing positions this time. Fortunately, I only got 1 set done, so, or is there 2? No, it's 1 set. So I didn't have to adjust much. I'll curl it up a little more once we get the sign up on, if there's room for that. Okay, so let's see. V. Okay. Twist. Cut out the excess. Pull the rest back behind. That means this will go down. Yes. This is my second video today, so I'm starting to get punchy. I'm so excited for this to be done. if you're a maker and you ever get ribbon that gets wrinkly or anything, your best friend is a hair straightener, a small hair straightener. You can get any wrinkles and such out without having to dispose of the ribbon. Works perfectly. Just a really thin one. I don't have mine right in front of me right now. Last but not least, don't need that. Put that behind it. Don't need the needle nose because I got my needles. Alright. Put this in and I'm going to stand up. This is so stinking cute, if I might say so myself. I love everything I do. Well, there have been a few I didn't. But some stand out more than the other, you know. Don't need that anymore. It's there. Covered and frayed. Can put that away. Alright, so now I have to, I think I'm going to go with that one on the top. And here's Frankie. Frankie, get these down more even, facing out. Sure, they're all. Stick into the mesh. We don't want that. Okay, I'm going to pull my pipe cleaners forward and take my tag off for doing inventory. So I have the item number. Okay. So we want one of the ties at 12 o'clock and one at 6 o'clock. That helps you determine the center. And I'm going to go ahead and put him here. I'm going to turn him around. I'm going to do the top first. And I use this plastic embroidery needle to put the ties through the frame. It's a lot easier than just poking your pipe cleaners through till you make it through the right place. Trust me on that one. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure he's where I want him and put this on here to protect him. Turn it over and attach it to the frame. And it's just perfectly placed where there's a pipe cleaner from the mesh. While I have it upside down, I'm going to cut a bunch of fray off because while it's not as important as the front of the wreath, it's nice to look finished, especially if somebody's going to be putting this on a door with a glass insert. And this is completely normal to have to cut this off. It's not perfect, but it gets most of it off. And because it's got such a bunch of colors, it's pretty wild, it's going to hide some of it too. Alright, so now I want to put him on top of the ribbon a little bit. And I'm going to bring him down right here on either side of the center. The little dimple will be centered with that ribbon tail. And when I'm putting the pipe cleaner through the mesh, I'm also making sure that it is a little bit behind the sign so that it's not showing out the front. Although once I fluff the ribbon a little more, it will hide. For sure, anything that might be sticking out. We have gone too high. Come back down here. There we go. Okay. Put that away. Where'd it go? There it is. Tried to run away. So his dimple's centered with the bottom one. He's a little bit snug in there, but not too tight. I think I'll just connect these together and wrap it around. Right there at that pipe cleaner. I need to go ahead and wrap the pipe cleaner around the frame till it's gone, tucking it down into the wreath. Not all the way to the front, but enough so that it's not sticking out the back to damage someone's door. Don't want that sharp tip exposed. And I don't usually put hangers on these because whatever hanger you use will clip right to one of these rails. Now I'm going to go back and fluff all the ribbon a little bit. Give it a little elevation. And bring this one up on top. I like the ribbons at 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock to sit on top of the ribbons around it. Sit down now so I can look at the underside, the ribbon on the bottom layer. I always lift the mesh up when adjusting my ribbon so as not to catch it and fray either the mesh or the ribbon. Getting all these out to the outer edge so you can see it all. Peeking out. I got confused for a second there. There's a Frankenstein on two of the ribbons, and they look very similar. So I thought for a split second, I thought I had two sets of the same ribbon on that. I know better, but still had my moment. I'm going to go back on the top layer with this and show you guys how to fluff it up a little extra. You just go ahead and, I'll start here first. You take it behind all the ribbon and just kind of bring it up. It will still lay flat enough behind a storm door wreath without looking crushed if you do this. So I'm just bringing it up behind it and give it a little bit more extra curl. I love how this makes it look. You can do it one ribbon at a time or all three at once, like I just showed you. These are trying to hide again. And this I learned from one of my students. So we all have something to contribute. Back when I very first started having in-person classes, she did that and I'm like, oh, I have to try that. And sure enough. Because not everybody's going to put these storm door style wreaths behind a storm door. They can go anywhere. So why not? All right. So, let me see, did I get it all? All right. There he is in all his glory. Stinking cute. Love it. Well, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and follow for more wreath making fun. Subscribe for YouTube, and you'll get notifications whenever I'm going live. I do videos every Sunday at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Some are tutorials for kits, and the rest are tutorials for other styles of wreaths and for product I'm going to be placing in my shop. You can follow me and get reminders on Facebook, Pinterest, and Instagram, as well as the YouTube channel. And it's under the name Wreath by Marguerite wherever you can find me, except for TikTok. That's the only place that I do not have content. So most of all, I want to thank each of you for spending some time with me today. I know your time is valuable, and the fact that you spend some of it with me and carve out some time during your day to spend with me is greatly appreciated. I hope you learned something new, or refreshed on something you've already known and got new ideas. So happy crafting. Until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.